said to the patient, you sit there, I'm going over to the pharmacy to get some drugs. I'll be right back. Do not go away. Just have a seat. So Jerry came back with 3 big bottles of pills. He said, first of all, I want you to take this green pill every morning with a large glass of water. And then at noon, I want you to take the yellow pill with a large glass of water. And at supper time, I want you to take that other funny colored pill. Blue, did I mention that one yet? Green, I mentioned that one? Okay, yellow. Take this yellow pill with a large glass of water. The patient was quite concerned and said, Doc, that's a lot of medication. What's the problem? He says, you're not drinking enough water. Another patient of his, unfortunately, was expecting babies, twins as a matter of fact, and she went into a coma. They didn't think she'd come out of it. So they called the family together and said, the twins are born, but she's in a coma that she'll never come out of, poor thing. So we need to name the babies. So they asked the brother to name the babies. Well, miraculously, she came out of the coma. Doc said, you had 2 babies, 2 beautiful babies, twins, and your brother named them because we didn't think you were going to make it. She says, oh no, he's stupid. What did he name them? Well, he named the girl Denise. Oh my God, what did he name the boy? The nephew. One of Doc's patients came in and I was underneath the bed, you know. He says, Jenny, my hair's fallen out. Do you have anything I can keep it in? Can you give me to keep it in? Jerry gave him a box. I know Jerry said that he does house calls, but he doesn't do them very much anymore. This one lady phoned him up and said, Jerry, do you do house calls? He says, only in emergencies. He says, what's the emergency? He says, my son has swallowed a pen. Jerry says, oh my God, I'll be over right away. The lady says, what should I do until you get here? Jerry says, use a pencil. When Shirley was on duty in the office, Shirley rang Doc and said, the invisible man's here for his appointment. Jerry said, tell him I can't see him right now. Shirley followed up on one of his other patients. Cute little gal that swallowed a whole bunch of loonies and toonies. Shirley picks up the phone, calls Doc in his office, says, Doc, is there any status on the patient? Doc says, no change yet. One of Jerry's other patients, always in rough shape. Jerry says, son, have a seat. I got some bad news and some really bad news. What do you want to hear first? The patient says, well, give me the bad news first. Jerry says, well, I hope you can take this. You got 24 hours to live. And the patient says, well, what's the really bad news? Jerry says, I've been trying to get a hold of you since yesterday. Jerry was treating a patient with a terrible, terrible cold. The man had been in and out of the office for weeks on end. No change. That's from the other joke, but it's just coincidental. No change. Jerry, he says, I'm getting a little frustrated here. Jerry says, okay, I know what we can do. I want you to go home, take a hot shower, and go stand naked in an open doorway. The patient says, but doc, I'll catch pneumonia. Jerry says, no problem. I can treat pneumonia. This other patient, a man, was in a terrible, terrible accident. He was just coming out of a coma in the hospital. And his wife came to see him in the hospital. Not unusual, really. And he opened his eyes and said, oh, you're beautiful. And then closed his eyes, went back to sleep. She stayed by his bedside, hand on hand. He woke up minutes later and said, opened his eyes and said, oh, you're cute. The lady turns to the doc and says, doc, what's the problem? Doc says, the medication's wearing off. This other patient, he was in bad shape. Jerry says, have a seat. And I'm still under the bed watching all this stuff happen. Jerry says, I got some bad news for you. Your life is going to come to an abrupt end in 10. The patient says, but Jerry, 10 what? 10 years? 10 months? 10 weeks? 10 days? Jerry says, 10, 9, 8. The husband and wife went to Jerry's office. Jerry examined the man and said, sir, you should wait outside. I need to talk to the missus alone. So he said to the missus, your husband is in grave danger. If you don't treat him like a king, he's only going to last for weeks. So you cannot ask him to do any chores around the house, no dishes, no laundry, no vacuuming, cannot cut the lawn, cannot blow the snow. He needs to live like a king. She said, no problem. She went out into the waiting room. They got into the car and started driving home. The husband says, what did he say, dear? Jerry says, you're going to be dead in a week. A patient came into Jerry's office. This guy was weird. He had a carrot in an ear, a banana up his nose, a hot pepper in the other ear. He says to Doc, what do you think the problem is? Doc says, you're not eating properly. Now, I could go on for a long time, but most of the other jokes I have are worse than the ones I already did. So I just want to explain a little bit about the origin of the kilt and what's under the kilt. Now, lots of people think there's a monster under there. But when you're this short, it's a dragon most of the time.